One of the things you have to take into consideration when you're buying paintings, especially old paintings, is condition. So I thought I'd give you basically understand how I look at a painting when it comes to me, and some of the terminology that you should be able to be familiar with and things that you need to look for if you really want to know what you're buying. So when I look at an old painting, you can also a new painting too that may be on a secondary market that has some age to it, you want to look at just condition. It's really important to see condition. Now you can do it, and I look in two ways. One is I look very close to the painting. That way I can see all little details, and I'm looking for details if there's paint loss or if there's some kind of rub or some problems. That's number one. And then two, step away from the painting and look at the overall composition and look to see what's going on with the painting. Some of the problems that you may see are things like you'll have stretcher bar marks. Now, stretcher bar marks are when the painting is put on its stretcher bars. Over time, it can lay an indentation around the painting. This really kind of stays there with the painting. Sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it's not. Usually it's not so much. You see it in old paintings, but if it's a real problem and there's a very strong and it takes away from the image, then you have to have what's called relining, or to line the painting. And basically what this is that the painting has been taken from off the stretcher often, and they'll put a new lining on the back of the painting. This gives it strength, and they can take away some of the stretcher bars. And the other thing it can help with is crack-a-lure. Crack-a-lure is when you see these little cracks in the canvas or cracks in the paint. That can happen when the canvas goes back and forth just over time or when it dries. So often paintings will have to have a relining or lining. This can be very expensive. Some people don't like to have that on their painting, and I can understand, and it's better not to if you don't have to. But it also protects the painting. Often will really help stabilize the painting, and it's a very good thing if the painting already has problems. Now, as somebody who's looking at it and you go, well, I don't know how to tell if it's got lined or not. The easiest way, and a real simple way that we always do, is I just touch the painting. I just give it a little tap, and if it moves easily, then it's probably not relined. Now, this is a gross way to look at it versus a very fine way. The fine way is you take it out of the frame, you look around the edges of the canvas, and you look for a secondary canvas, especially if you see a white canvas or something that's much different color. You can see where it's been laid down on it. This tells you it's been relined. It's a good thing to know because that means there probably was some problem with it at some point in time. And that brings us to the next point. What do? Well, you black light it. So you take a UV light, you put it in the dark, and you look for different colors that might pop up, or fluoresce. This fluorescing says it's been painted and filled in for maybe where the cracks were, or maybe there was worse problems. Now, if you see this kind of restoration, that's not always a bad thing, and most auction houses, most dealers can give you a condition report of what's going on. One of the most common things you'll see is what's called in painting, and that's usually around the edges where the frame has dinked the canvas. You'll see little areas where paint got chipped off, or maybe it's just a little area that needs to be retouched. Often this will light up under UV. Now, if you see big swashes of areas, especially in maybe figurative areas or things that are important, then that's a different thing. And you want to know if it's had repaint or if it's just some in paint. So those are a couple of the things that you want to look at when you're looking at a painting. The other thing is, does it have any holes or problems? Again, look at the back of the painting, flip it around, and look. Assuming it hasn't been relined, you may be able to see where there's little patches or areas where they have filled in holes. So you'll see the patch on the back, turn it back around, you light it, and you can see where they probably have painted. You can see where there's a difference. All these things are important when you look at a painting. Just from start to finish, look at it with very critical eyes to see what's going on. Now, just because it has some repaint or it may have an issue that's been taken care of, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but you need to know that going into when you're buying this piece, because it may affect the painting, and you may go, it's got too much problems, I don't want to deal with it, or oh, this has been taken care of, I don't have to pay any money for it. So terms to know, what to look for on old paintings that may have damage. Listen to the Art Dealer Diaries. That's my new podcast, and you know, I interview all sorts of interesting people that come through my life, whether it's an art dealer or a collector or an artist, somebody that I find interesting, and I think you will too. So listen to the Art Dealer Diaries. You can find it on YouTube and on any podcast forum.
are brought to you by Medicine Man Gallery, located for over 26 years in Tucson, Arizona, specializing in antique Native American art, early Western art, including the famed Maynard Dixon, as well as modern art. You can find everything online at medicinemangallery.com. There's over 6,000 objects to select from. Also, the Charles Bloom Murder Mystery Series, written by yours truly, me, Mark Sublette. There's 6 books in this series, and they follow the protagonist Charles Bloom through all the intrigue of the art world set in Santa Fe and the Navajo Nation. These can be found on Audible, ebooks, Amazon, and of course, the gallery at medicinemangallery.com.